Watching this election cycle is like watching NASCAR. You can't believe anybody supports anything about it sincerely, and really you're just hoping to watch someone crash and burn. And the candidate whose car is forever on fire is Donald Trump, yet he somehow survives. It's getting bad even for Trump though, as just this last week he had a man attempt to storm his microphone, he had one of his supporters sucker punch a protester, and his campaign manager allegedly grabbed a reporter so roughly that he bruised her, though that claim remains highly contentious. Here's what puzzles me about Trump. As cringy as he is at times, his opposition gets cringier. It should be so easy to respond to Trump and make yourself look good by comparison, but somehow these opposition groups fail in that task. I watch them and I listen to them, and I don't know how, but they manage to make Trump look good by comparison. Over the weekend, I heard an interview with one of the protesters at Trump's Chicago rally on the Rachel Maddow show. This is a true masterpiece of the cringe arts. So let's set the stage here. You've got three friends from gender studies seminar and a guy under the false impression he's getting laid out of this deal with a Trump equals hate sign that I thought had a Nazi Mr. Peanut cartoon, but upon closer inspection, it's actually supposed to be a Trump hairpiece holding a swastika flag. I get that Trump's hair is the go-to insult target, but come on, let's take a closer look at these glass house-dwelling stone throwers. Anyway, the interviewee here is Danielle Villarreal, one of the designers of the Nazi Mr. Peanut art. Let's find out, Danielle, what's your problem with Trump? Why are you protesting this event?
So basically, a bunch of us decided to go to the protest and put this banner on because he's really something that does not in any way represent what Chicago is for any of us. He's something actually completely the opposite of that.
Well, I'm glad you and your three clearly ideologically diverse friends are the self-appointed representatives of all of Chicago politics. But the problem is I could find plenty of Chicagoans who would say you are not representative of their Chicago. And they need not be right-wing ideologues either. They might just be people who prefer not to have the swastika thrown around in cartoon depictions in ways you would otherwise argue are insensitive to Holocaust survivors. I'd say it's just insensitive to originality and creativity, but let's hear what you have to say about your casual Nazi references.
I have to ask you about this decision that you guys made to put the swastika on the banner. Whatever the argument is behind that, that's going to make people see red. That's going to be very provocative.
It should, if it's going to make people see red, perhaps that would be the blood of, children that have been murdered in the same name of violence, by the police across the country, right? So, if they want to see red, yes, that is the same red that fills in the Nazi flag. That is the same red that fills in fascism, the fascist words that are behind his campaign, and any other campaigns of hate that this country or other countries have seen. Yes, they should see red. They should see it.
Sorry, Danielle, I lost you there for 1 second.
You know when a politician gets a tough question and acts like his earpiece is bad and he can't hear?
Say again?
Are you going to make your tax returns for the past several years available to the press?
I didn't hear you.
Apparently we are losing audio with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
This was the opposite. The interviewee stumped the host with stupidity. I had to listen to this clip several times through to attempt to follow the reasoning. Here's how I understand it.
When people's faces get angry, they turn red. Red like the blood spilled by police brutality. Red like the color of the Nazi flag. Red like the word fascism when you turn the font color red. So when Trump wins, our only choice will be to flee to Canada, where the flag is.
Well, we went onto the floor because a lot of other protesters were on the floor, including police, and we wanted to make sure they were okay, and we wanted to be, with people that were also on our side. And we were encountered by lots of, white, middle-aged suburbanites who were very, very angry.
Mad at Trump for racial prejudice. Dismisses an entire group of people based on race.
And decided to try and, rip the banner away from us in an act of violence because, that's basically the only sort of strength that they could demonstrate as something violent against us. Because God forbid they tried to actually speak to us.
So let me get this straight. You go to an event and you call the host and his supporters Nazis, then you rip them for not having reasonable conversations with you. Let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say I go down to the bar this weekend and I see a stranger peer of mine talking to his friends or a woman, and I walk up and I say, "Hey, you." And he might turn around and he might look at me confused and maybe even angry, and I'll say, "Yeah, you. F*** you." Now, would it be reasonable for me to wake from that slumber and say, "Well, that man couldn't even engage in reasoned discourse with me"? I'm not saying that violence is justified, but I am saying if you intentionally provoke people with inflammatory accusations, you don't get to criticize them for not being polite to you. You don't get to shit on someone's lawn and expect him to thank you for it. These Trump protests are fascinating to me because they bring up two important questions about how this election is going to unfold. The first is who is at fault for the recent spree of violence at Trump rallies, and the second is, are these incidents going to cost or earn Trump votes? Protesters like the one in the interview help me understand the first question. These aren't people going to his rallies with the intent of protest, as in the intent of counter speech. These are people going to his rallies with the intent of disruption, with the goal not of responding to Trump, but of silencing him. When your aim is disruption rather than response, that's a problem. That's a problem because you are provoking people in such a way that increases the likelihood of violence. Again, doesn't justify the violence. Trump could do a better job in speaking out against it, but these actions do increase its likelihood. And it's also a problem because you are encroaching on the most important value of a free society, the freedom of speech. That value is our most fundamental, far more important than the question of whether we should build a wall along the Mexican border or whether we should adopt a more restrictive immigration policy. If I agreed with a candidate on every issue, but he or she favored silencing the opposition by force, I would never vote for such a person. I would much rather have a candidate with whom I had zero agreement, other than a mutual understanding of the value of our disagreement itself. And that is why I think these protests are counterproductive. I think they will earn Trump votes, not cost him votes. A few months back, I wouldn't have predicted there would be anything that could get me to consider a vote for Trump. And honestly, I probably never would based on Trump's appeal alone. But to stick it to you people trying to silence speech through force, that might do it. That'll make me hope your car crashes and burns in this race. And I'm not the only one. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is @skag_3. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live stream. That is linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Okay, bye.